Hello everyone. This video is the second part of our hijab or women's clothing or covering session. So if you have not watched the first video, hijab in the Quran number 1, I really encourage you to watch that video first before watching this video. Having said that, I'm going to do a very quick recap of what we talked about in the previous video, but I just want you to know that there's a lot of material in the first video. And we almost got halfway through this verse. There's a lot more lessons that are still packed in this verse, and we are going to analyze and unpack those lessons. So, just as a quick recap, we talked about the verse that says وَالنِّسَاءِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, which means wives of the believing men. And it doesn't say, for example, وَالنِّسَاءِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, which would have meant wives of the submitting men. So that is first lesson that you have to know. So this verse only applies to married women. So, and only married women whose husbands are believing men. So, who is this verse excluding? This verse is excluding every single woman in a Muslim community, regardless of what family they come from. So, it's not talking to any single woman, it's only talking to married women whose husbands are believing men. So if someone is single, it doesn't matter if they're sister to a believing man or if they're their mother of a believing man or if they are daughter of a believing man. This verse is not addressing them, is not asking them to do anything. I'm only talking about this verse, so please keep that in mind, right? So then we did talk about lowering the hemline or lowering the dress so that it covers certain parts. In another verse, we're going to talk about that. But in this verse, it goes on to say something really interesting. So I'm going to clean up the page so that we can talk about that. So here it says, ذَلِكَ أَدْنَى أَنْ يُعْرَفْنَ فَلَا يُؤْذَيْنَ. It says that is better. That is more appropriate, more likely for them, and yu'raf, that so that they can be recognized, they can be known. فَلَا يُؤْذَنْ, because now they are known and they will not be bothered or they will not be hurt or approached. So what does this mean, yu'rafna? So what does that really mean? That they will be recognized, they will be known. This is better for them to be known. Known as what? So this is a good question. Known as this. So yu'rafna here means it says that they will be recognized as what? They will be recognized as the wives of the believing men. So Allah wants these women, Allah wants the wives of the believing men. I'm not talking about all the Muslim men. Only the believing men. Allah wants their wives to be recognized in the community as chaste, and so that when they are known, then they're not going to be bothered, they're not going to be approached. I mean, things that happen in any society and any community happens all over the world. You all know what I'm talking about here. So they will be known as the wives of the believing men, and because they are known, then nobody will approach them, nobody will try to cause any problems for them. Why? Because these are women that do not first of all, they are married. Second of all, they are married not to everyone, to actually believing men. Second of all, they don't wear short dresses or short skirts, or you just name it. So they dress modestly. So that's all there is. So whereas other women, other female individuals who are singles or not married to a believing man, they are free according to this verse. Again, so we're going to get to the other verse as well. But according to this verse, they are free to dress any way they want. They can dress shorts, any way they want. So there's no restriction for them. So I just drew this so you can see it. So let's say this square includes all the women in a country, in a nation, in a society. So small group of them or a large group of them, it doesn't matter. So a group of them are considered wives of believing men. So the rest of the women in this society, in this country, in this nation are include wives of Muslim men and other religions such as Christian men, Jewish men, agnostic men, secular men, you just name it. And then, in addition to that, there is single women and girls of all other religions, including Islam. So those are not included in that, right? So those are different. So Allah wants the wives of believing men to be recognized so that they are not bothered. To be recognized as what? To be recognized as wives of the believing men. So that is telling you, this verse is so important. That is telling you that in the initial Muslim community, at the time of the Prophet, there was freedom of attire. There was freedom of dressing for women. There was nothing as hijab that we can think of. Women were dressing anything they wanted. It was only a certain group, wives of believing men, that Allah commands them in this verse to lower their hemlines, to make their outer garments hang low over them to cover certain parts of their body. So that was it. So it was a free society. Just like right now, you go to a lot of Western countries, Europe or America or Japan or China, anywhere other than majority of Muslim countries, even in some of Muslim countries like Turkey is the same way as well. But women were free to dress. There's no legal or religious requirements. There wasn't, I mean, any religious requirement for women to dress, Muslim women, I'm talking about Muslim women, to dress any sort of hijab or to cover their hair or cover their head. Uh, Even in terms of dressing, putting on um, shorts or not really covering much of their body. Again, you don't see that here in this verse, especially for single women and girls. It's not requiring them because faith, if you think about it, is not a matter of compulsion. Faith is a matter of free will, and Allah has created us. We have a nature, and one of the things that we is in our nature, is in our creation, is to be free, not to cover our head or cover our entire body. That is not what Allah wants in the Quran. And this verse is a very, very clear demonstration of that. This is not the only verse. We are going to look at the other hijab verses as well, and you're going to see over there as well very clearly that's how it was. So why would, now I have a question for all of you. If there was hijab, if you look at hadith or a lot of the sayings, what they say that is, oh, everyone was wearing hijab and things like that. If that's what the case, if the hadith was true, why would the wives of the believing men would want to dress differently so that they are known? If everyone is wearing hijab, everyone is covering themselves with black covering, and now why would Allah even ask the wives of believing men to dress certain way if everyone is wearing the same way? So that just does not make sense. The reason Allah is setting them apart, and again, not by covering their entire body, just by telling them that wear longer, lower your hemline. Don't basically don't dress shorts or short dress or scanty dresses. So that's all it's the verse is telling them, and again, which is a reflection of how free that society was. And obviously, based on this verse, single women, single girls, um, uh, and wives of Muslim women, and even wives of the believing men used to dress differently than what we have in our mind, and differently than what the hadith tells us, to the point that Allah comes and gives a message, gives an advice. It's not even a commandment, it's an advice. Allah is telling you that just do that so that for yourself, so that no problem is caused for you, so that you are not bothered, you are not hurt. It's an advice. It's not even a commandment. Even this mild of a commandment to the wives of believing men is just an advice. It really is not a commandment, it's an advice. And there's no punishment for it either. It's just Allah is giving them an advice, a recommendation in this verse. And that again tells you that the freedom that existed at the time of the Prophet for women, for girls, to dress the way they wanted to dress. And that is why Allah commands the believing men to lower their gazes and not to look. If everyone was wearing a chador, like a black chador covering all their faces, and what is there to look? Why would Allah command the believing men not to look? The only reason why Allah is commanding the believing men in the Quran not to look at women and lower their gazes is because there was freedom of dress, there's freedom of attire for women to dress any way they wanted. And there were women who were dressing shorts, to the point that Allah issued this verse and gave this advice only to the wives of the believing men. Ma salam, my brothers and sisters, and hopefully you're all safe, and hopefully you'll find this beneficial for you. And we're next time we're going to go to the next verse and study that verse and study and analyze that verse together. Peace, ma salam.